I call today's meeting to order. We are going to recess to close session. closed session, and we'll call the meeting back to order. There's nothing to report out of closed session. We'll go on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. Place your hand over your heart. Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Karen, can you please take the roll?
Director Magner. Director Kelly. Present. I'm sorry. Director Fernandez.
Here.
Director Schlangen.
Here.
Chair Dransfeld.
Here. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
No.
May I get a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Director Magner. Aye. Director Schlangen.
Aye.
Director Kelly.
Aye.
Director Fernandez.
Yes.
Chair Dransfeld.
Yes. We'll move on to presentations, electricity and electric vehicle charging comparisons.
Good evening, members of the board, Chair Dransfeld. Tonight, just do a quick little presentation. We've done some energy projects this year and some 3 years ago that have kind of come to fruition this year. So kind of want to give a little status update of where we're at, where we're going, and where we're seeing the benefit to the district and the community as a whole. So over the last 4 years, the district has taken on projects to reduce and offset electricity costs. Two of those larger projects were a rate study by Utility Cost Management, UCM, and the installation of solar panels, electric vehicle chargers, and a backup energy storage system with SiteLogic. Also, and there were some small things like changing out some lights with LEDs instead of the fluorescents and things of that nature that are smaller scale and do definitely contribute to the benefit of the district, but are kind of harder to measure their impact. So for utility cost management, they did a rate review of district parks and facilities a few years ago, about 3 years ago. And what they found with Bob Kildee and PV Fields baseball rates were on a standard time of use general service rates, which have a higher kilowatt hour charge. And so we were able to change those to outdoor area lighting rates because the meters they were on just service the lights. And so it's a more beneficial rate for us. They also did 2 smaller rate changes at Pitts Ranch and PV Fields from general service to outdoor area lighting. But given that the ball field lights are bigger and use more electricity, the benefit from switching those over is much bigger than Pitts Ranch and the smaller PV Fields, but it still was a benefit to the district. And then we did a closeout meeting a few months ago with them after the 3-year agreement, and they did find 3 more smaller accounts that would benefit slightly, so 2 out at Freedom and 1 at Keto. So they've changed a lot of where we were paying more than we necessarily should have by just switching the rates. And so here's a little chart of the savings. So that first line there is for 1030 Temple Avenue ball field lights, so that's Bob Kildee. You can see over a 3-year period, the savings from that switch was $222,365, and that's a 3-year savings. 108 Half West Park Court is PV Fields baseball field lights. Again, they changed that to the lighting 2 rate, and we've saved $41,921 over a 3-year period. And then the 2 smaller accounts that were changed 3 years ago, the combine of those was $4,655. So again, not nothing, but significantly less. And then at the supplemental review, the 3 additional smaller accounts they've changed. Those weren't in place 3 years ago, but they are in place now. So the actual savings through last invoice is, so we did a 3-year agreement with UCM, and so they changed the rates. And as part of that agreement, we paid 42% of the savings to them as kind of a consultant fee, and then we kept the other 58% ourselves. So that $268,941 represents the 100% cost savings of it. And on the right, you can see the district did receive 42% of that. So our recognized savings for that 3-year period was actually $155,986. Now the 3-year period's over. We've paid their final bill. We do not owe UCM anything any further. And so you'll see that last column is the going forward annual savings. So we should estimated, and now these numbers are estimates because based on what the rates are now and in the future, the savings will probably be more than this. But at the very least, we expect that for the Bob Kildee lights, we'll save about $73,000 a year. For the PV field ball field lights, we'll save about $14,000. And then combined on the other two smaller account changes, we'll save about $42,000 a year as well. So going forward, after our 3-year agreement with utility cost management, we'll save over $91,200 a year on electricity savings. So a pretty well worth it, I would say, for our standpoint, a big benefit to the district moving forward. Moving on to this.
One question.
Yeah.
If we went to a more economical lighting, and I believe they're even better, you know, lumens wise and all that, could we cut into that savings, increase the savings more?
Yes, that would, if we looked at some kind of a more efficient, energy efficient lighting, we would see additional savings as well.
So have we looked at that at all?
I believe it's on our agenda for the future. The ball field lights, it would definitely be more than just kind of changing out the light bulbs because you have to do a whole fixture replacement.
Yeah, you have to, in order to get it to work right and get the most out of it, you have to change the fixture.
Mm-hmm. And so it would fall into the realm of a capital improvement, but it's definitely on our radar for the future.
Okay.
So then moving on to the Site Logic project. So the Site Logic project involved the solar panels at 3 locations, Pleasant Valley Fields, Freedom Park, and the community center. And in addition to the solar panels, a backup energy storage system is in the process of being installed at the community center. As of today, we have received permission to operate for the Freedom Park and Pleasant Valley Field solar panels. The community center permission to operate is still pending, and then the installation of the backup energy storage system is slated to start in March of next year. So since we only have the 2 solar projects, 2 solar panels done, the whole project as a whole was kind of built as the whole project. Instead of trying to look at what the cost savings is, it would be kind of difficult to guess given that the project's not completed. I did want to show the energy savings itself, knowing that every kilowatt hour has a dollar attached, well, cents attached to it. But you can see in a year over year at PV Fields, we are now using 8,753 kilowatt hours less, or we're buying, I should say. We're buying 8,753 kilowatt hours less than we were because of the solar panels, and we're selling that electricity back to Edison. At Freedom Park, we're also using 8,613 kilowatt hours less. So year over year, we're now using 17,366 kilowatt hours less by the installation of the solar panels. Now, a rough order of magnitude, I mean, for November, you could say we saved $2,544 in buying less electricity. Now, some caveats with that, and why we kind of want to wait and look at this as a whole project is, this is only for 1 month at 2 sites, and the project was supposed to be for 3. It's winter, and so you've got less sun during the day, so your savings is going to be less than in the summer where you're generating 12 to 13 hours. And November did have a lot of rain and clouds. So this is kind of when the month is a cloudy, rainy day in the winter, we're still saving over $2,500. Additionally, we need to consider that in the winter, the rates that we pay are less than the summer, because in the summer they have the higher rates because they want you to use less electricity between the hours of the peak hours, so they charge you more. So this is kind of a baseline of what we can expect to save minimum going forward at least these 2 locations. The other thing to consider with this is electricity rates are never going to go down. Nothing ever goes down. Included in this is the fact that at PV Fields and Freedom Park, the electricity costs went up 11% year over year. at the community center, electricity costs went up 14% year over year. So along with offsetting and at that baseline saving that money by not purchasing it, we're also insulating ourselves from the continued increases in electricity price. I mean, if we're going 11% every year, over 10 years, you're going to be almost doubled what you were doing 10 years ago. And once the solar is producing, we've really now saved ourselves from a really big increase in our price. So my goal is to come back probably around June, July, when we've got all the sites up and running. We've got some good data that we can actually analyze. But I just wanted to say that we're already seeing a lot of, a good chunk of savings, and it's only going to be more and more money we save compared to if we never did the project in the first place. We want to allow a true and accurate reflection of the savings. I don't want to say, oh, we only saved $2,500 on a project that, you know, cost millions of dollars, when the real savings should be somewhere in the $40,000, $50,000 a year potentially. We also installed, as part of the SiteLogic project, 12 electric vehicle chargers, which are available for public use. They can be located at Freedom Park, Pleasant Valley Fields, and the community center. These chargers have been in operation since August of 2025. And you can see the orange bars are the number of kilowatt hours that have been used at these 3 sites from August through November, so a 4-month period. And then the green line is the net revenue that the district received from the 3 sites. Now, under the estimated net amount, you can see that's the estimate based off the average kilowatt hour cost and service fee. So running these things aren't free. Nothing is free in life. So ChargePoint does take a percent of the money that we bring in. It's not a large chunk. And then there's also the cost of the electricity. So to not consider the cost of the electricity would not be a correct information. So the numbers you see on the green line are net amount. So that's gross minus cost of service minus cost of electricity. So over a 4-month period, August, September, October, November, the district brought in estimated $3,532 from the electric vehicle chargers. We also saw 11,279 kilowatt hours that were used from these chargers, which, this fun fact, is about equivalent to 145 gallons of gas. So from the standpoint of being climate conscious, that's 145 gallons of gas that was not used, that we supplied through our chargers. So looking at this, we're averaging about $883 net per month from the EV chargers, so roughly $10,600 a year. Now, this estimate is assuming that we're buying the electricity at full rate. Now, the solar generation will definitely offset some of that. How you want to look at that depends, and again, depending on the month. If it's rained all week and we've sold, you know, 1,000 kilowatt hours, we probably didn't offset much of that. But in the summer months where we're generating 13 hours of sunny days, we're probably offsetting all of it. So however you want to look at it, depending on the month, if we're offsetting half the energy the cost, we'd be bringing in $1,065 per month. And if we're offsetting 100% of the energy costs, we'd be bringing in $1,246 a month. So there's a bit of a variability, but the baseline is we're bringing in at least $883 a month from the EV chargers currently. Now, there's always the potential, as people realize these chargers are there, as we see more and more use of them, the amount we will bring in will be more. But this is just what we've seen from the first 4 months of use. And when we come back next year for another presentation, we'll update these numbers and see if we've been consistent with it. Yeah.
When we installed the solar, did it change us from a monthly bill to an annual bill?
No, we're still doing monthly.
Monthly, okay.
Yeah.
So that we might get a credit back in the summer.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And we'll see that in the bookkeeping. The reality is we have so many electric facilities that the credits will never truly show up on the expense reports as credits. But for those specific meters, we will be getting credits. And then those will roll over as then future bills will not need to be paid because we have a $5,000, $7,000 credit on the bill.
Cool. And then one more question. Does this align with the goals that were put in place when we set out for the solar? And electric vehicle charge. Obviously, these numbers are great for switching from time of use and whatnot, but for like the solar project, is it lining up with the expectations that were set years ago?
For now, again, it's hard to say that because we're looking at what are the expectations and goals of the project is, or at least from a financial side is when this thing's up and running, here's what we're going to save. But I can't tell you we're going to save that until we have the whole thing up and running. From the standpoint of offsetting the electricity, this is about in line with what we would have expected to see.
Okay.
Maybe I fell asleep for 5 minutes or something in one of the meetings we had. But I don't recall discussing that SiteLogic was going to get a cut of the action on those meters.
They do not. ChargePoint does.
Well, no matter who it is, I don't remember discussing the fact that they were going to take a percentage of our money.
Okay.
Did we talk about that?
That was part of it. When looking at the pro forma for the estimate cost, it was mentioned that it would be the net to the district.
How much, what's the percentage? What do they take?
I wish I'd brought it. I'll have to get back to you. I don't want to speak to a wrong number. It's not a large cut.
And do they have a deal where it goes up, or they can ask for a bigger percentage?
My understanding is it's a locked rate, but I can come back with that information.
Probably a percentage, so it goes up automatically when ours goes up.
Well, yeah, the more we bring in, the more they get.
All right.
So kind of just to bring it around, so the work that the utility cost management did is estimated to save the district at least $91,200 a year. And again, that number will be bigger depending on what the difference between the rates are. And then EV charges are expected to bring in roughly $800 to $1,000 per month in net revenue. So between these two projects themselves, the district will see at least $100,800 in cash flow relief. So we're looking at it from a cash flow money that does not need to go out to pay for these bills, and additional money that will come into the district. And again, we'll come back when we have a better understanding of where the solar project came in as a whole and whether or not we're in line with what the original target was. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Does anyone have any other questions? Director Schlangen?
Justin, thank you very much for that presentation. In your presentation, it stated that the battery is not going to be finished until March, or at least that it's going to start in March. Was that part of the project plan schedule? And if not, what is causing that delay?
There were some significant supply chain issues when there was the period of tariffs back in the summer months that kind of threw some of the timing off. It's been difficult to secure some of the equipment that was anticipated to come in a lot sooner. March was definitely not the initial timeline, but with the unexpected kind of situation of tariffs, and then that kind of, for whatever reason, had effects on the supply chain. So that was why the delay.
Okay, thank you for that. And correct me if I'm wrong, I remember in a past meeting you stated that we could not submit the application for the grant until all 3 of the sites have been awarded. Is that still correct?
No, we've looked into it further. We're allowed to assess each site as a separate project, and then the battery system as well would be a separate project. So I'm currently working on the forms with a tax advisor to make sure we do it right. Applying as a government entity that does not file taxes, there's a special process you have to go through to then essentially file taxes and ask for the whole credit. So we want to make sure we're doing it right. But we are in the process. We're about halfway through that process of getting the forms submitted for the 2 sites with the permission to operate. We've reached out to Edison about the 3rd site. I've got a contact over there. He's got his eyes on it. We're supposed to be seeing that shortly, but we'll see. Once we get the permission to operate for that one, we're doing the beginning legworks on that application. Once we have the permission to operate, we attach that and send that off as well. We should have all three, well, we'll have the first two submitted in the next month or so. And then the third one is contingent on when we get the permission to operate. And then once the battery system is done, we get permission to operate with that as well. We'll turn around and submit that. But again, with that one, we can do at least 80% of the paperwork, get it ready to go, and then once we have it, attach it and send it off.
Perfect. Thank you, Justin, for that update.
Great, thank you. Any other questions?
You said tax credit. Is that different from a grant, or is that how the grant is issued? Because to me, a credit's like, here's a check. Or here, credit is you file your taxes, you get a deduction. But
Right.
a grant is here's a check for a purpose.
You know, for lack of a better term, it's a distinction without a difference. It's the Inflation Reduction Act grant is what we all talk about it. But when you go to the nuts and bolts of it, it really is a tax credit from the IRS. But again, when we're talking about it, if we said, oh, it's a tax credit, you know, government agencies which are eligible for this, it would be like, oh, we're not eligible because we don't pay taxes. So we call it the Inflation Reduction Act grant is kind of a layman's terms of it. The true reality is it's a IRS grant, energy savings. I think it's 43A is the section of the IRS code that we would be applying under. It is technically a tax credit. And so to apply for the tax credit, we have to apply and file taxes with the IRS, which we normally don't do. It's a standard process, not standard, but it's not out of the ordinary for government agencies and nonprofits and the like to do this process to apply for what would be normally a credit for private entities or homeowners. So the true reality is it's a tax credit, but it's easier to say it's a grant.
I'm trying to think of how I want to say this. Do you know of any other entity that has recently applied for this grant or tax credit or whatever you want to call it? Or one that has been granted recently?
I have not checked since June or July, but as of June or July, agencies that were applying were getting it.
All right.
So I'll do a follow-up.
Okay.
Okay, great. With that, we'll move on to public comment then. Thank you, Justin. In accordance with Government Code Section 54954.3, the board reserves this time to hear from the public. If you would like to make comments about a matter within the board's subject matter jurisdiction, but not specifically on this agenda, in accordance with California law, the board will listen, note the comments, and may bring the comments back up at a later date as an agendized item for discussion. Speakers will be allowed 3 minutes to address the board. Jack Draper.
Timer. Madam Chairperson, members of the board, my name is Jack Draper, reside at 837 Vista Coto Verde here in the beautiful city of Camarillo. I've been a resident for a year, and during that year, I've been struggling with hooligan e-bikers who have now attacked my house. And it's a felony, according to the Camarillo police. They shot and shattered my back window, 5-foot square, from up on the hill above my house. They attacked the front of my house with a carton of eggs. And you ask, why? What does this have to do with the park? Well, we found the empty carton in the infamous nest of e-bikers at the base of the northeast corner of the park, where they are constantly congregating with their e-bikes, damaging the park, and digging up the slope of the park, and have created an obstacle course there, which they continue to refine. It's totally out of control. I wrote you all a detailed letter, a 3-page lengthy letter, 13 pages of attachments with photographs. I wrote a letter in April of this year to Manager Otten to begin this. It got worse and worse, and my letter to you of October 28 details how much worse it's gotten since I wrote the first letter in April. And now, November 7th, they attacked my house. Okay, my wife is a basket case. She wants security cameras now. What do we do? They are shooting us. Fortunately, no one was sitting in front of that window. The window is right in front of one of our easy chairs. We filed a police report with by the way, here's the you all have a copy of the letter. I emailed all board members, and you got, Madam Chairman, you received the original, and the district received the original. Crime report, Camarillo Police Report 25-143861 has been filed, and the deputies are outraged about it. They said, well, this kind of thing doesn't happen in Camarillo. Well, it does. It happened to me. Did they have to shoot me or my wife? Your park is the nest, is the only reason these guys are there. And I understand from the rangers who've done an excellent job, Ranger Kelly, Ranger George, trying to deal with this, but they don't have the tools because there's no signage saying specifically you can't put e-bike here on the park. My letter asked for signage. Nothing's been done since April about the obstacle course that's created down there, vandalistically changing your park, creating an area for them to do their deeds down there. That could have been removed. We're asking, and my letter, my time's limited, my letter goes into detail about the three things: the signage, obstacles to this course, and removal of the course, which are easily done. I just don't understand it. If there's shortage of funds for some boulders or something to stop the racing down the hill and racing back up the hill and jumping on the sidewalk, I'm sure myself and my neighbors can work up a fund and donate funds to the park. But this is a serious problem, and it's not just here. Our wonderful little local newspaper, The Acorn, wrote an article on, is somebody going to get killed if we don't do something? This is an Acorn, November 8th, the day after we were attacked, ironically. And they quote Mayor Penny Sylvester of Agora Hills as saying, somebody is going to get killed if we don't do something. And I raised that in my letter. I didn't say get killed, but injured. They're going to
Thank you, Jack. I wanted to let you at least finish your thought process of that, but since the 3 minutes are up, I'm just going to honor that, and we'll make sure to look at those details in your letter to revisit, especially after your public comments.
$1,300 for my window, and the eggs, a carton of eggs to the front of the house, half a day trying to clean it up, and there's still egg remnants around. It's an outrage.
Thank you for your
Please do
comments. I'm sorry that this happened to you. That is very frustrating, but I am glad you filed a police report at the very least, and that they're aware, and that you've been in communication with our rangers and whatnot. So thank you for that. Mary, is there anything else to add to that? I know that since this isn't on the agenda, but...
Well, there is a vehicle code section now that it came into effect October 1st. I want to make you aware, if not, that allows you to confiscate these bikes. Even,
sure. I'll let Mary comment on.
And I have the code section. I give you just the code
So there's a couple things going on. One, anything that happens in the street or anything on that side of it is PD. We do not arrest. We do not have any type of arresting warrant, anything on that side of it. I'll let Matt talk to what we continue to do, but I know that, having conversations with Matt as well as with rangers, part of the reasons he's been talking to rangers is because we have sent rangers out to make sure that that area is being monitored. But just like anything else with 28 different parks, we can't just station someone at that park. One of the things that we've been working on is signage. Anytime we do signage, it's not just a matter of putting up an A-frame. Anytime we put up an A-frame, the A-frame goes. So I know that we've ordered about a half a dozen e-bike signs, but again, part of that is where we put those up, how that where those go. I know that Parks has worked on anytime that they build it, we take it down. But again, if you build it today, we take it down tomorrow, it doesn't stop them from building it in 2 days and then having to take it back down. So I know that's a perpetual and a continuous thing that we continue to do. E-bikes is not just a problem here. E-bikes, as I know Director Kelly and I have had conversation, it's a problem in all the parks. If you talk to PD, e-bikes are a major problem. If you, on a phone call earlier today with other GMs across the state, and it's an issue in almost every area, and a part of that has to be the education of the parents. And, you know, putting boulders, I understand one of the things about putting boulders, that becomes and creates a liability for the district. Because right now, without any boulders there, if we put big boulders, kids then go down those, thinking that that is an area that they can go down. That creates a potential liability for us, because now we're putting other things that are there. So I don't know that there's an immediate answer, but I can tell you that continuously, and Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'll let Matt speak to how often we're up there and removing stuff at that site.
Before you speak, Matt, I didn't get the name of the park that this is going.
Blocker. It's at the northeast, it's the northwest corner at the top. So there's that slide, there's that incline that goes down. So it's happening in that corner up top on the northwest corner.
It is.
So Matt,
This is the first, I've heard of problems there, but not e-bike problems. Obviously.
Yeah.
Matt,
so
do you want to?
What kind of gun did they use to shoot it?
Caliber pellet gun, and he said it's a felony. And so they are investigating this. We are cooperating with the detective, and we hope we'll catch the perpetrator. It was a coordinated attack front and back of the house. The eggs hit with tremendous force. We thought somebody's trying to break in the door. 12 eggs. There had to be more than one person to throw 12 eggs all simultaneously.
Yeah.
We rushed outside to see what was going on and saw it was eggs. A couple of minutes later, we heard our window shatter in the back and ran around. So it was multiple people, and maybe two groups of multiple people, because the hill is very difficult to get to from the front of the house. I don't know how they could manage to. It's a military operation almost, and it's precision. And these are kids with e-bikers.
We've been talking about, just so that you know, we're not oblivious to this, we've talked about e-bikes numerous times.
And over the years, not even just recently.
This is not the first time. This type of situation is the first time.
Well, vehicle code, I wanted to give you just real, the vehicle code section is 22651.8. It's new legislation, took effect October 1st. The legislature has put in place this law for you to adopt regulations where you can your ranger could cite and confiscate the e-bike and take it. And then you store it, and they have to pay to get the e-bike back.
Sure.
They have to pay for that. So you have the tools if you'll just.
Well, it depends on whether each kind of ranger that exists out there has a certain ability to do certain things. And so I don't know I'll look into it for sure. If our rangers have that kind of authority to confiscate a bike.
Do your rangers are they peace officers?
Let's have
status?
Matt
They're not- they do not.
answer.
Do not have peace
They're
officers.
not.
No, they're not
Sheriff-
sworn officers.
The sheriff has gotten very involved and is there more than the rangers now,
Sure.
patrolling at night. They've offered to park in our driveway. and
Jack,
do
I
that
just want to
minutes.
allow our staff to reply.
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention that we've gone up there on several occasions and knocked down their little ramp that they built into the side of the hill. However, we've confiscated over like 8 shovels within the past 6 months or so, like because we find them in the bushes there and then we just confiscate them. But yeah, it's an ongoing thing. We'll get a call. The rangers will report to the park to
survey it, and they try to make contact with the e-bikers, and they're just zooming. They're faster than they could, catch them. So, I mean, and we're not in any, we don't go into pursuit because we don't want to, they're not trained to do that, and we don't want to cause any harm to, other community members. So it's really hard to even touch base with them. We have issues with that at the community center too, where they'll just disregard the rangers, and they're off. They very mobile, can move very very fast. So it's really hard to catch up with them and kind of talk to them. So
Okay. Thank you, Matt.
The sheriff
Thank
has
you, Jack.
contacted
Yeah,
several times
yeah.
the park on the grass.
And the sheriff will have to be the one, unfortunately, to be able to handle that, since that's out of our control, really, it sounds like, right, Mary?
Yeah, we do not have arresting authorities, and typically we do not. We have citing authorities, but those are only citing as it relates to what our district ordinance is.
I was going to ask if that needs to be revised.
Right. So those are specific to what they have the authority to do. And again, I know that e-bikes has been a big issue for not just us, but I know it's an issue with the city. It's an issue. It's become more of an issue.
Yeah.
Can we, or
throughout
should we, or
agency.
do we already partner with the police department on a strategy here? I mean, I'd hate for us to both be trying to solve this problem separately.
So we've had conversations with PD. We've had conversations with the city as well as with the school district. So one of the things that PD has been doing is going to all the schools and doing education. The bigger piece really is the education with parents. And I think that's the hardest thing, because a lot of times I don't believe in sitting on different, I had gone to a couple different meetings. One was with Ventura, City of Ventura, because they're dealing with the same thing. And part of it is getting to the parents, because a lot of times parents are purchasing e-bikes that are not street legal. Or what will happen is you will have kids that take their e-bike, just like, the old days, 10 speeds, whatever. And then what they would do is they modify them, and that's where the issues come in. So there's some of these e-bikes that are not street legal, and I can tell you, talking to Commander Tennyson, is that when they see that, they will confiscate the bikes. But part of it is seeing that and dealing with some of those things, because everybody will agree that there is an e-bike issue.
Okay,
Well,
thank you.
I think you, even if you don't, I think you do have the authority now to take action, not only to fix the park, but to confront these guys. And I heard about this. You do have the citation
Thank you, Jack.
ability.
Fortunately, the public comment period is ended, so we're going to move on to the consent agenda, but we'll have staff be in touch.
One last thing. The vehicle,
I'm sorry, Jack. I'm trying to move the meeting along. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jack. Can we, are there any items that would like to be pulled from the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Director Magner,
Aye.
Director Schlangen,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Fernandez,
Yes.
Chair Dransfeld.
Yes. Moving on to new items, consideration and approval of a scholarship policy.
All right. Good evening, Chair Dransfeld and members of the board. Today, we're going to be looking at a proposed scholarship policy for the district. To give you a little bit of a refresher about our programs and policy, or I'm sorry, our programs, as a reminder, the district does provide and maintain a full range of quality programs focused on leisure, recreational, and athletic activities for residents. When you get our activity guide, you see a lot of those programs in areas in health and wellness, sports, senior activities, again, to increase wellness in the community. Our offerings are provided through seasonal registration periods and range in cost by fee set by instructors. So we have our winter, spring, summer, and fall guides that come out. A lot of those programs are, as I mentioned, taught by contract instructors who do set their own fees. And on average, we do serve over 32,000 participants in various activities throughout the year. Currently, we do take registration online through a software platform, and our registration for programs and activities accounts for about 4% of our annual revenue. Any out-of-district residents do pay an added 25% registration fee. And outside of being a resident, the district does not currently offer any sort of discounts or financial residence for participation in classes and programs. So kind of knowing that we don't offer any financial aid at this time, and it being one of our goals to ensure equitable access to our programs and reduce financial barriers, we began researching and creating the foundation for a district scholarship policy, aiming to promote fairness and transparency, expand access, so potentially reaching a group of people that we're not currently serving. Of course, it aligns with our organizational mission and values and does meet our strategic plan goals that fall within our 2021 to 2026 plan. So looking a little bit about the need and the Camarillo demographic of why this might be an important policy to offer. Looking at Camarillo, you'll see that the median income is $131,300. Looking at the Department of Housing and Urban Development, also known as HUD, they kind of qualify low income into 3 categories, which is extremely low, very low, and low income. And then looking at data from the city of Camarillo for their 2021 to 2029 housing element, they have kind of, for Camarillo, given us an idea of how many households and families fall into each of those categories. So we have about 9.6% of families that fall into the extremely low income category. We have about 10.5% of households that fall into the very low category. And then we have about 13.7% of households that fall in the low income category. To the right there, that table breaks down what those ranges are to give you an idea of each low, very low, and extremely low. Also kind of looking at why this might be an important policy to offer. Currently, we have over 200 district offerings each season. Looking at the full range of classes, if we took an average of all those class costs, the average class cost is approximately $150, with the median class cost falling at about $100. As of right now, we don't have any free instructional opportunities for youth. And for seniors, we do have very limited free instructional opportunities. As we know, living in California, but especially Ventura County, we are in a high cost of living area. And then some other indicators that kind of support a policy such as this include just recognizing that through our food distribution program that we have seen an increase in families and households lining up, just showing that we do know a lot of households do live paycheck to paycheck, and they might not be able to afford extra recreational activities for youth or seniors, adults. So to tell you a little bit about how we came up with where we are today, initially we presented to the policy committee back in April. Based on input from the committee, we did return in July and in November. This policy was developed on research from 10 local and regional organizations, but including our neighbors who we kind of looked to as a baseline, which was City of Ventura, Conejo Recreation and Park District, and Rancho Simi Recreation and Park District. Each of these 3 organizations do have scholarship programs that they currently offer, and we see a lot of similarities between those and between the other 7 that were researched. So for City of Ventura, they do offer a scholarship program for youth under the age of 18. Their foundation does support that program, and it is income-based using HUD's guidelines, and if you qualify and are a resident, then you can receive reduced program fees, or partially or up to 100%. With Conejo Recreation and Park District, a similar process. They do offer a scholarship program for youth, and then they do also include adults with disabilities in their program. They do have a foundation that supports the program, and then the district matches it. So that kind of whatever their foundation puts into, they match to offer their total amount of scholarships each year. And then Rancho Simi Recreation and Park District is a little bit different. They follow federal poverty guide limits, but anybody who meets those limits is automatically able to get a reduced program fee. So again, we took all that research to inform what we wanted to do with our policy, and I'm going to kind of go over each of the elements that we put into that based on that research. Starting with the eligibility criteria, to be eligible, of course, it makes sense that they would need to be a resident of Camarillo or within district boundaries, and we would require proof of residency. They do need to meet the income-based qualifications at or below HUD guidelines for Ventura County. The reason we did look at using HUD guidelines versus federal poverty limits is for it to be really reflective of our community, the cost of living here, and for it to make sense of what we would base those limits on. And then looking at our demographics, it made sense that any resident who met the income qualifications and residency qualifications would be at least able to apply. So in terms of what they would be able to receive with a scholarship policy, looking program specifically, they would be able to apply for scholarships for recreation programs, aquatics, and camps. That would, of course, exclude facility rentals, private lessons, adult sports leagues, and any of our CSO programs. Following the trend with some of the things we saw in our research, we would limit it to one program per season per activity guide. And it would have to be approved before registering for an activity so we can avoid having to go back and do refunds or get into challenges with accounting. They would only be able to change an activity if they were awarded one with prior authorization, and additional considerations would be first-time applicants. So it would be our goal, again, to try to reach as many people as we can to give them the opportunity to participate in programs. So looking at the documentation that they would need to submit in order to be considered for a scholarship, as I mentioned, proof of residency. That would include it could include a utility bill, a lease or mortgage bill, or a driver's license. To have proof of dependence, we would ask for them to submit, again, one of the following. It wouldn't have to be all of these. They could choose what worked for them, but that would be a most recent tax return, a pay stub, W-2, or proof of government assistance. For foster youth only, we would request a placement or verification letter just showing that they are indeed a foster youth. And then we have a scholarship application we'll look at that would be submitted as well, which would also include a optional personal statement of why they might be applying for this scholarship. So what we recommend in terms of if we were to have a scholarship opportunity would be for foster children, knowing that that's an at-risk community. We would provide 100% coverage for program fees. As we saw on a previous slide, it is still just one activity per season. So even though it is free, it still would be spread out across as many children as we could. And then if they fell into the extremely low category, we propose 75% coverage, 50% coverage if they were in the very low income limit, and then 25% coverage if they fell into the low income limit. If there was another extenuating circumstance and they were above these limits, we would consider potentially a 10% discount. If awarded, the funds would be directly applied to their account that they have with us for registration. And participants would be responsible for paying the remaining balance not covered by the scholarship. So as we saw in those tiered amounts, if we covered 25%, they would be responsible for paying the rest. Those funds would only apply to the class registration fee. It would not go towards any supply fees or lab fees that are usually collected directly by the instructors who operate the classes. We would put a limit, an individual limit not to exceed $200 per year. With that being said, that does not mean they get $200. That is just the max in a calendar year that they potentially could utilize. So if they chose a summer camp, which is almost $200, that might be the only activity they do that year. But if they chose gymnastics, which is $60 per session, they might be able to apply 3 times for the year and be within those limits. But again, depending on what they're registering for, we would have an individual limit not to exceed $200. A new application would need to be submitted each season, and supporting income and dependent documentation would be submitted and updated annually. So just because they apply for this season and are awarded, they're not automatically guaranteed future scholarships. They do need to apply each season. We're just not going to make them resubmit all their pay and residency documentation except for annually. So we expect that to be pretty consistent for that calendar year, and then the next year we would recollect that to see if anything has changed in their circumstance. We would keep a wait list, and additional awards may be granted if funds remain. These would not be transferable, so it would only be for the approved participant. And our goal would be that those participants maintain at least 70% attendance in the program to remain eligible for future assistance. When we would accept these submissions would be basically in line with our registration periods and our seasons. So we would have designated dates in April, August, and December. Beyond those dates, we could continue to accept applications if we have remaining funds for that season. And then once that application is submitted, the goal would be that we have 2 weeks from their submission date to review it. If there is additional documentation that they did not submit, so if we requested proof of residency and they provided a document that didn't truly show that, or maybe for dependents, they submitted something but it didn't actually include the dependents. Sometimes, like if they submitted a pay stub and it didn't have dependents and they didn't submit another document with that, we would give them 5 days from notification to get that additional documentation that we need. And then applicants would be notified via phone and email within 30 days of original submission of whether we were able to award a scholarship for that season or not. Applicants would be categorized based on financial need and processed in the order they were received. An equal number of awards would be offered in each of those 3 low-income categories. So that would be the extremely low, very low, and low during the registration periods. And looking at when our registration is at its peak and when it kind of varies, we would try to spread the funding out across the year to kind of be in line with that. So our goal would be to have 25% available during winter, spring, 50% in summer when we know we have a lot more classes and participation, and then 25% in the fall. The district would determine the amount of money dedicated to the fund each year during the budgeting process, and then any remaining funding at the end of the year would be rolled over into the next fiscal year to be part of that fund. And funding availability would be considered to ensure that equitable distribution happens throughout the year. So the GM or designee would make the final determination of award. Approved applicants would receive confirmation with details how to register, and denied applicants would receive at least an explanation and information on how to reapply. We have a little snapshot of the scholarship application here. We did create a kind of, the front page of that is a how-to with the required documents that would need to be submitted with the application, just as an easy reference so they know step by step what needs to be included. It also has a couple general guidelines, again, just in case they don't read the full policy, they kind of have an idea of what is being offered. The application itself also includes some demographic information as well as their class choice request. We do ask that they request at least 2 options so that if there is a program that is full, we can look at the other request that they had to see if there is room in that class to be offering the scholarship space. And then with the demographic information, that's just helpful as if this is an approved policy, how we can kind of track and see the families that we are serving and kind of keep some information on who's receiving those funds. And then the final page there is a little bit of a checklist of documentation, them signing that this is true and complete, and then some tracking information for staff to issue. With funding, what we recommend is that the board would designate during the budgeting process with additional funding being supplemented through sponsorships or donations. Just as an example, that could be $5,000. It could be really any amount determined by the board during the budgeting process. And this can be fluid depending on the district's financial health. Part of the reason we thought that having a set amount designated from the general fund would be important is so that we know in the beginning of the year before we're awarding how much money we're working with each year. Whereas if we were relying on sponsorships or grants or other sources of revenue, it might be difficult to know how much we're going to have or to be able to track and communicate with the public about what's left. So again, it made basically a low-cost, high-impact initiative is kind of how we see it if we designated a small portion of the general fund towards this policy. So the suggested scholarship policy is designed to ensure that all community members, regardless of their financial situation, have equitable access to our recreational programs and services to foster a more connected and healthy community, and by expanding opportunities to those who might not otherwise be able to participate due to economic constraints. I know we think of Camarillo as kind of a stable, high-income city, but we do know that there are a lot of families who are just, with the high cost of living, maybe living paycheck to paycheck and unfortunately don't have the opportunity to participate in some of these programs. This does meet, as I mentioned earlier, our strategic plan goals for 2021 through 2026, which is 4.0, provide an inclusive range of high quality, passive and active recreational programs and opportunities to our entire community. And then 4.1D, identify and reduce physical and financial barriers to participation in programming. So it is recommended that the board authorize staff to proceed with implementing a district scholarship policy targeted for launch with the next budget cycle. We kind of foresee that we would take this time between now and the new budget year to get the process in place, educate staff on how that would go, set how much funding from the budget that we'd be able to offer for this initial time, and go from there. Questions? Yes.
One of the earlier slides mentioned exclusions. Can you describe the exclusion?
So really, I'll go back to that slide. It would be pretty much for anything you see in the activity guide would be an opportunity for them to apply, with the exception of adult sports, rentals, and then CSO programs, which our CSO programs take registration through them, not through us.
So it doesn't, like if a child gets a grant or a scholarship through PVRPD, does that mean they can't then get a grant through Pony Baseball if they also?
No, it just means our scholarship funds for reduced fees only applies towards the programs that we are directly offering.
Got it. Okay.
Thank you so much, Nicole, for your presentation and for all of the work that you've done on this. I remember when it came to policy, to the policy committee, we were like, how are we going to do this? Because there was so much, and with all the work that you did, looking at the different agencies, trying to cater it to our needs. Just thank you so much for all of your work and time that you've put into that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Board, are there any other questions? Sure, Director Schling, and then we'll do Director Kelly.
Yeah, again, Nicole, thank you for this work, and also to the policy committee members for their work in bringing this to us. You had stated that with going through the budget to get the money for this and educating staff on how to receive the applications, if everything goes as you plan, are you looking at maybe the summertime as the first applicants being able to come in for this award, or spring or fall, or what's your kind of time frame on that?
Yeah, our new budget cycle starts July 1st, so it would hopefully be late summer, early fall that we would actually be able to offer scholarships.
Perfect, thank you.
Director Kelly.
Yeah, I have about 3 questions.
Okay.
Seed money, what are you thinking seed money?
My example was 5,000. But again, there's a great deal of flexibility. Again, we can also target through sponsorships, and we might get more sponsors having a program like this because a lot of people do want to support youth in sports or just youth in positive activities. I personally don't have a specific number in mind. I think that's, again, for us to kind of look at where the budget is falling and then
Okay, what
start
youth in
modestly.
sports are you talking about?
Well, in the guy, I'm not talking about our necessarily leagues. I know we do have our CSO groups who offer wonderful leagues. I'm talking about some of our introductory recreational programs, which might be the starting place for a lot of kids before they go into those leagues. So in our activity guide, you'll see we offer soccer, basketball, gymnastics, a lot of just introductory sports that youth can participate in.
How many man-hours is this program going to take out of the district?
So when our first draft, when we were still kind of working with the policy committee, I didn't have designated registration times. I was like, oh, we can take them anytime throughout the year. But thinking through that exact question, what I identified was it made a lot more sense to have designated times where we're looking at offering our scholarships. Also knowing we have our seasons, which typically have a registration period where the bulk of our registrations come in. So it shouldn't be too labor intensive. It would kind of line up with where we're already taking registration in April, May, and December for our normal guide times. It would be an added component, but depending on how many scholarships we're issuing, it would really just be kind of front-loaded during those registration periods.
So let me make sure I got this right. You're thinking of starting with, assuming no donors, seed money of $5,000?
I mean, that's just an example. It could even be 1,000, because I think if you're even helping one child, if we only had $1,000 or $500 to start, again, we do have some lower cost classes, and it's not going to take
Let me ask the question.
Sure.
You're a good witness. Let me ask this question. If you got what you wanted to get
Sure.
from us, what would you,
Start with
yeah,
10,000,
10,000? Okay.
but I'd be willing to accept 5.
Okay. And I'm not quite sure, why is it limited to just the district's programs and not other programs?
When you say other programs, are you including like CSO groups?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
I think to start, we don't handle any of their registration, and we do know a lot of organizations do have their own scholarship policies. We also offer classes that are much broader than just sports. So starting with district programs seemed like a good starting place. It could be in the future something if we were working with our groups and that was a joint effort we wanted to explore, we could. But to start with, it seemed the most manageable, especially just for accounting, for tracking, for knowing where everything was at and how much we had to start with district programs.
Have you ever had connection? You ever been connected with a program like this one?
Like a scholarship
Yes.
program. So again, we did reach out to our neighboring partners. So we did talk to Conejo, we did talk to Ventura, we did talk to CME to kind of get an idea of what were the challenges, what worked well, get some best practice tips. So we do have their experience. Personally, I did work for a nonprofit called Girls Incorporated of Greater Santa Barbara, which was a after-school program serving low-income girls, and we did offer scholarships to them to participate in our gymnastics program as well as into the after-school program. So I have, to an extent, yes, worked with programs like this.
I thought so because it's pretty tight. You've got pretty much everything covered.
Just quick personal statement, just coincidentally, one of the girls who I worked with at the gymnastics program reached out to me this week. She found me on Instagram, and she was like, oh, I just wanted to see how you're doing. And she just graduated from SDSU with a degree in electrical engineering. And I was just like, couldn't be more proud. She did our gymnastics program. She was part of the after-school program, and they were very low income. Even though Santa Barbara's in a really affluent area, there are pockets of substantive need. And I was like, oh my gosh, she remembers me. And I looked at her page and I was like, oh my gosh, she's an electrical engineer. And yeah, I almost cried. So we do know that programs like this, as I mentioned earlier, low cost, high impact initiative.
The final thing I have to say is just remember those CSOs, some of them have kids that are at the bottom of the scale, and they're still finding a way, but every little bit would help.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with this.
Thank you. Director Fernandez.
Yeah, I think this is great. One, my daughters raise money at their school quite a bit for scholarships for a very similar purpose. We do a lot of fundraising for that. I know we do dining together pretty often, monthly, I believe, but maybe we can find a way to redirect those dining together funds to something like this, as well as other avenues, Justin, looking at the financial
I
guide.
was going to say, that's through the foundation, and I know that is one of the items the foundation I've heard is willing definitely to support. So
Cool. Great.
it's great to hear.
It's a wonderful idea. And when that's one of the many steps in this process is making sure this is in place so that we have an opportunity, so that the foundation has an opportunity to be able to dedicate and direct funds in that manner if that's what they agree upon.
Chair Dransfield?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the scholarship policy.
Great. I'll second.
Director Schlangen,
Aye.
Chair Dransfeld,
Aye.
Director Magner. Aye. Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Fernandez.
Yes.
That passes unanimously. Thank you. We'll move on to the selection of chair, vice chair, and secretary for the 2026 Board of Directors. I now open the floor for the purpose of nominations for the position of board chair.
Chair Dransfeld, I would like to nominate Director Kelly.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Are there any more nominations? Hearing none, I now close the nominations for the position of board chair. Clerk of the board, call the roll for the first nomination.
Director Magner. Aye. Director Schlangen,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Fernandez,
Yes.
Chair Dransfeld.
Yes. Congratulations to Bob Kelly, chair for the calendar year 2026. Should have
Thank
asked
all
if
of
you would like to accept that in the first place, but thank you. I now open the floor for the purpose of nominations for the position of board vice chair. I will nominate Elaine Magner.
I will second.
Are there any more nominations? Hearing none, I now close the nominations for the position of board vice chair. Clerk of the board, call the roll for the first nomination, please.
Chair Dransfeld,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Magner. Aye. Director Fernandez,
Yes.
Director Schlangen.
Aye.
Congratulations to Elaine Magner, vice chair for the calendar year 2026.
Thank you very much.
I now open the floor for the purpose of nominations for the position of board secretary.
I would like to nominate Director Schlangen.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Are there any more nominations? Hearing none, I now close the nominations for the position of board secretary. Clerk of the board, call the roll for the first nomination.
Director Magner. Aye. Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Fernandez,
Yes.
Director Schlangen,
Aye.
Chair Dransfeld.
Yes. Congratulations to David Schlangen, secretary for the calendar year 2026. Great. Thank you so much, everyone. We will move
Chair
on.
Dransfield?
Yes.
At this time, I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank you for your leadership in the past year. You did a wonderful job leading us and dealing with some crowds at times, and as a representative of us at various functions. So thank you very much. And I also wanted to take the opportunity to thank the other board members as well as staff for all your work this last year. I'm looking forward to another great and successful year working with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And with that, I'll go on to we'll move on to oral communication for the chair report. For meetings and events, November 5th, the board meeting, November 6th, celebration of the sector, November 8th, community action fair and the PV Co-op Fall Festival. On November 10th, the State of the Region, Oxnard Community Stakeholders Meeting. November 12th, the CLU Center for Nonprofit Leadership Workshop, Leading People and Organizations in Times of Change, Camarillo City Council and Foundation. November 17th, Finance and Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy. November 18th, Oxnard City Council. November 19th, VCLA State of the Region, followed by the Ventura County Fire Department's building tour and our policy committee meeting. On November 29th, Deeply Rooted's Holiday Community Market. On November 30th, there was the Caterpillar Rocks reinstallation over by Cayugas Creek. I encourage you to go check it out down by the bike path, kind of over by Pitts Ranch. And a friend of mine, she runs the free little art gallery, and they, over the past couple of years, painted over 1,000 rocks. So there are now 1,400 rocks along that path, and the goal is to keep having it grow and see how long it can get. So definitely encourage you to check that out. On December 1st, went to the Oxnard Community Stakeholders Meeting. Facebook reminded me that 5 years ago today, I was sworn into office. It feels extra special given that today is also my last meeting as chair. To say it has been an honor is an understatement. I cannot express enough how much it means to not only hold this position, but to also be trusted and elected to serve and represent this board. I attended so many events this past year, ensuring that PVRPD had a presence, a voice, eyes, and ears at the table. I've learned so much through all of it. I am proud of our staff, our parks, our programming and events, our district, and our board. As I have shared in other meetings, I am out advocating for the community, speaking at the podium instead of the dais. It has provided a lot of time for me to reflect on not only how I lead, but how this board responds. I shared with General Manager Otten last month how proud I am of all of you, truly. I became extremely emotional because if other issues were treated the way our district has handled concerns, we'd all be better off. I have heard and called out the silence rendered to public comments across this county. I have seen inaction and weak leadership, but I have not seen that with our district. I know that there are some that may disagree, and that's okay. The fact is, PVRPD listens and is grateful for all engagement and comments. I wrote some of these thoughts back in April in hopes of sharing them tonight. It was after my experience with the big egg hunt when I was reminded of several things. Things I experience when I see my kids laughing on the swings and running through the fields, which they're probably going to do here. And that's the joy of parks. I loved seeing families with clipboards running up to each egg. I loved telling folks were passing by about the hunt and to join in on the fun. I received texts and messages from friends about how much fun they were having and the new spaces they uncovered along the way. One of my favorites was from a friend who was with her husband and daughter looking all around Freedom Park for the egg. She didn't realize how big the park was and all the different things there. Her husband was so excited about exploring it, not knowing. At Freedom Park alone, the district has BMX, an outdoor roller rink, an RC track, softball fields, the Miracle League 805 Friendship League field, Pleasant Valley Co-op preschool, the park's office and shop, a dog park, Freedom Center home to table tennis and other classes and programs, and eventually a pickleball complex. We do a lot with the little we have. As I watched PJ and Teddy run up and down stairs and slides, I had a conversation with a grandmother. Long story short, we talked about the difficulties new families face as costs of housing have increased, the number of jobs a person has to have in order to make ends meet, and how just going to dinner costs close to about $100. I could tell that there were likely political differences, but that didn't matter, because all that mattered was that moment. Seeing our kids play and talking amongst neighbors, different walks of life that came together, the common experience of being human. There are folks who can't afford a vacation or to go out to dinner, but they can explore a number of our parks and have picnics to still be able to get out and create memories without having to worry about the cost. Our parks provide a free space to play, to gather with friends, family, neighbors, to build community and meet new people, build real-life connections that is often lost with eyes fixated on screens instead of each other. I'm grateful for all of you that help make our district what it is, our dedicated staff, our board, our foundation, and our community members that respect and support us. Thank you. Thank you. We will now move on to, now I lost my agenda. CSDA.
If I can get my composure back, I'll say something to you later. I'll do Ventura County Special Districts Association first. Chair Dransfeld and Director Slingen and I and Director or GM Otten attended the meeting at the McCrae Ranch. And we didn't happen to go to, I didn't happen to go on the tour because I'd been there before, but it's such a beautiful place. If you've never been, please, please go. The general manager from Canale, Jim Friedel, did a presentation, and the gist of his presentation was their partnerships that the Rec and Park has with local communities, places, and foundations and things. And it was, I knew they had done a lot, but I didn't know they were doing as much as they did. So it was kind of nice to hear Jim speak. CSDA legislative activity is kind of slow right now. We're planning for next year. We've had a meeting about every 3 to 4 weeks, trying to get our ducks in a row. And as I remember, my late husband used to say, "Get your geese in order and get them in a V shape." And I said, "Okay, that's what we'll do." So it's a trying time for us. The president-elect is running for Congress, so it should be an interesting upcoming time for us at CSDA. But we'll keep everything in order and move forward. So January. Well, I'm going up next week. I'm going up Sunday, in fact, for executive committee, and we'll be getting more planning and things going. So, but other than that, that's it for that. Thank you.
For Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy, the last meeting took place on Monday, November 17th, and the next meeting will be on Monday, December 15th at 6:30 p.m. at King Gillette Ranch in Calabasas, and the public may participate via Zoom. Last month, I mentioned how during public comment, there were several comments expressing frustration about the Los Angeles Aerial Rapid Transit Project, also referred to as LA ART, which is the proposed aerial gondola that would connect Union Station to the Dodger Stadium. In good news, the item was agendized, and Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy agreed to submit a comment letter. For D and standing committees, for finance, I'll go ahead and make the report there. The last meeting was held on Monday, November 17th, where we went over the October financials, and the next meeting will take place on Wednesday, December 17th at 3 p.m. in the conference room. As of November 13th, 2025, our total cash report is $21,159,683.69. Year prior was $19,544,254.08. Our restricted has $9,388,134.35. Our semi-restricted is $6,558,714.22. And in unrestricted, it's $5,212,835.12. In comparison to the year prior, the cash report balance is up by about $1.6 million. Our investment rates for October 2025, class went down 0.08% to 4.19%. VC pool is down 0.05% at 4.18%. And LAIF went down 0.06% to 4.15%. And for policy, we finalized our scholarship details, which were presented tonight, and we started to discuss revisiting the naming policy. Director Magner, is there anything you wanted to add for policy or for finance?
Yeah, on finance, we can be so lucky that we've been able to experience the increased interest that we've been receiving, and thanks to staff for doing the appropriate investing, and we appreciate that, Justin, we really do, because it definitely helps the bottom line. As far as policy, Nicole? I go from CSDA to staff, so I apologize for that. Nicole, I just want to say to you, you did a fantastic job with this. We started pretty rough, and the chair and I came up with some ideas. You massaged them and came back, and I think that this is going to be an awesome program. And I'm like the other directors that have made comments, but staff just does a great job. And when it comes to you guys presenting these type of policies and things to us, it's unbelievable. And I look forward to seeing the scholarship program off and running. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving on to Foundation for Pleasant Valley Recreation and Parks.
Yes, thank you. The foundation, we last met on November 12th, and at that meeting, we discussed the next big event, which is called the Amazing Race, which is going to occur in October of 2026. At that meeting, the foundation is currently developing the challenges that are going to occur during the race, and also trying to finalize the parks that are going to be used during this race. The next foundation board meeting will be held on Wednesday, December 17th at 5:30 p.m. Here or at the Camarillo Community Center office. Thank you.
Thank you. General Manager's report.
Okay. Hard to believe, but the winter-spring registration begins next week. So, I know. And then we're in spring. Events coming up, there's a slew of them. So tomorrow we have the Senior Snowflakes dance. We have Letters to Santa that have been happening. Last day for that is December 6th. Cookies with the Clauses is this Saturday, which is from 10 to 1. The Camarillo Christmas Parade is on December 13th from 10 to 2. We partner with Camarillo Community Band for their holiday performance, which is this Sunday at 4. The other thing is we're currently accepting band application for summer concerts. So if you just want to go from spring, might as well just go to summer. So that's open through December 19th. And you can find that on our website. Just a reminder, right now, the aquatics, the pool closures from 12/22 through 1/4, working on new motorized door installation. There'll be no food distribution on 12/26 or 1/2. Other park projects, Bob Kildee, Dos Caminos, the ADA parking lot upgrades, that will be happening December 15th through the 19th. And then one of the things the board approved tonight was for the slurry seal, which will then happen. Goal is to get that done in February before everything starts to happen again. On the admin side, staff are working on through the easements for Las Posas, the bike trail to Channel Islands, working on setting up a meeting after the first of the year so we can get all the stakeholders. So long-range planning next week, long-range planning December 11th, 4, finance December 17th. Foundation board, as Director Schlangen mentioned, December 17th, and then our next board meeting is January 7th. So a few things going on. So hopefully things will settle after the parade for a bit.
Thank you. We will go on to board members. Anyone want to kick us off? No? Director Schlangen?
Sure, a real quick one. I just wanted to take this opportunity to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a happy and safe holiday season. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Magner.
I'll report out on my travels. On the 4th, I was at VCSDA. On the 5th, I attended a board meeting. On the 13th and 14th, I was in Sacramento for a board meeting and also the Finance Corps, where I think we approved close to $30+ million in financing. On the 17th, I was with the chair on the Finance Committee, and on the 19th for the Policy Committee. And I just have to say this. I looked out here and seen this lovely family sitting out there, and they laughed, so I didn't get to say to them. But I remember when Bev's youngest, or her oldest daughter was Teddy's size, and she would come to cut the ribbons for the grand openings, and that seemed to be PJ's. She just loved doing that, and it's exciting to see your family out there, dear. So thank you to them for sharing you with us this last year, because you've had your plate full. So thank you again, and happy holidays to staff and to everyone out there. And we'll look forward to seeing everybody along the streets on the, what's it, the 13th, isn't it? So hopefully, Mary says we're going to have good weather. So we'll say, Mary said there's good weather, so we look forward to the holidays. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Director Fernandez.
Yeah, thank you, staff, for everything as usual. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas. I'm looking forward to the Christmas parade. My daughters are looking forward to the Christmas parade. We've ordered candy canes. They're practicing throwing their candy canes, so it'll be a fun time, just like last year. So really looking forward to that, and hope to see as many people as possible as we drive down the streets. So thank you.
Director Kelly.
Thanks, everyone. This has been a wonderful year, and it has gone very fast. I really can't believe how fast it's gone. I think this board operated exceptionally. I think it was straight arrow. We got stuff done. It was just a pleasure to sit here each meeting and work with the wonderful people that are here. David, thanks for your energy, and you're always on point with very specific questions that need to be answered. I think the board needed that, and I, among all of us, I'm sure, appreciate your efforts. Elaine, your tireless effort in traveling and going to all those far off places and catching planes and dealing with non-compliant people and bad food and God knows what else. I mean, all the stories that I've heard it just makes me so glad that I'm not doing it. And so I don't know how you do it, but keep doing it for us. Nick, you brought a certain cerebral thing to the board, and we needed it. A board can never be too smart. And I'm glad to have you sitting beside me at every meeting. Make sure I don't go off the deep end too far. And Bev, I don't think, I've sat here for almost 20 years, and I don't think I've seen anybody come in and be the chair on her first time and done such a bang-up job. I got to sit here and watch everything you did, and you were eloquent when you were speaking for things that you cared about. Your organization is beyond anything that I have seen, and you kept the meetings not short, but they weren't long. And everybody got to have their say, and you were very patient. especially on times when you knew way more about the subject than maybe one of the other board members did. And so I just want to commend you for a job well done. And as I've said in the past, it'll be a tough act to follow. So thank you. And with that, I'll say Merry Christmas to everyone. And I can't wait for the parade this year among all others. I hope everybody has all of their family there, and I hope the weather's great, and that we have a lot of fun. And so, looking forward to next year, and who knows what surprises lie in the midst out there. So, thank you, everyone. Merry Christmas. See you next year.
All right. Thank you, everyone. And likewise, as everyone, happy holidays. And thank you as always. Thank you. Thank you. Have a good night. We're adjourned.